You can also see at the KICC there's a lot of activities coming through. I believe there's a family members who are coming in. There's Professor Kindiki's brother who's there. He spoke to us yesterday. He's called Isaiah, I think. That's I'm not sure who else is there with them, but many dignitaries are coming through. And Javas, what is your reaction to what is going on right now? Before you came in, you were talking about whether this then is the final nail on the political coffin, so to speak, for Gachagua.
Well, I wouldn't say that it's the final nail in the political coffin of Rigathi Gachagua. I would say it's the coffin itself, because the matter seems to have moved. And I remember earlier you asked my kindred, Dr. Komolo, as to whether anything can salvage Rigathi Gachagua's political career, looking at the unfolding of events right now, and whether he can go back to office. I think it is possible for Rigathi Gachagua to go back to office through works of art, by literary works and poetry. But in terms of reality, I think it is not possible. My grandfather Samson used to tell me that firewood never begets firewood, it begets ash. And what has happened to Rigathi Gachagua is actually the consequence of the perpetuation and propagation, if you like, pollination of his ideological violence on very many fronts. The issue of course, you recall the discourse around banding people depending on their shareholding capacity in this government, the political sins that he has committed, and no son of man within the political realm can salvage him. And so I have had even discussions from various quarters, including last evening, that Rigathi Gachagua is a useless politician now. I think Rigathi Gachagua is not a useless politician. He's not useless. He's very useful. He's very useful because by way of his acts and decisions in the recent times, he's helping to build jurisprudence in this country. He's helping to build history in this country. And he's also helping some politicians to avoid bad manners in the foreseeable future. And so his utility in the politics of this country remains something that's very paramount. Nonetheless, I think the other thing that should be a critical lesson for politicians right now is that what is the usefulness of your advisors, including political advisors while in office, and legal counsel when you're faced with circumstances such as Rigathi Gachagua's? Yes, there are times when, against or riding the horse of hope, you fall for the advice that you need to fight tooth and nail, to the end. But I think when you look at the weight of the consequence of Rigathi Gachagua's impeachment, and now that the ship has sailed off politically for him, one would have pleasantly imagined that it would have worked for him beneficially if he would have resigned before going to the National Assembly to face it, and even the Senate. The other thing is that remember that Rigathi Gachagua was playing to the gallery. When he addressed the press before the day that he went to the National Assembly, he was trying to speak to his base, and he achieved it emotionally. But right now, I think much of his base is also going to be glaciated. If you say that Rigathi Gachagua is going to fight President William Ruto for the next 3 years, does he have the war chest? Can he sustain it? And who is it that will want to associate with him when he doesn't have the political wherewithal that will help them even going into the election of 2027? And looking at comparatively the political circumstances that are resting upon Mike Mbuvi Sonko, the former governor of Nairobi, it is nearly the circumstances that will befall Rigathi Gachagua politically. And therefore, I think if he is able and he has got some resource persons around him, it is time for him just to pen a memoir.
And that's it.
Sure.
He wraps it up. Let me bring in Willis back on this. Willis, Steve Ogola, advocate of the High Court here, and I saw him in court yesterday. He says the right thing to do is for the former deputy president to withdraw the cases. The substratum is wholly lost and it makes no sense to press on with the cases. Do you agree?
You know, I will not agree with the call to withdraw, but it's true that the substratum of the case is essentially now lost.
So what's the point of keeping
what is the point of keeping it, as you'll note, is that for Rigathi Gachagua politically, you will not want to get to a point where his fate is sealed. Hopefully, as long as the cases stay in court, he may have a chance probably to contest for elections in the future, even if his case is determined at the time when the next elections are called. So I will not politically advise him to withdraw the case, but the reality of it is that those who are in support of what has been done to Kindiki, in terms of facilitating it, they will not wish to be called back to court, because there's something that Kindiki lacks today. Professor Kindiki lacks what we call regime legitimacy. A process that a court does when it hears any case, it confers on a regime what we call regime legitimacy. These court processes, and even starting from the National Assembly to the Senate and now to the court, has exposed a lack of legitimacy in the ascendancy as Deputy President of Kithure Kindiki. Because everybody's seeing things being rushed, and the more Rigathi Gachagua is in court arguing these points, they are further exposing how the law as we know it is being bent over to accommodate Professor Kindiki. Parliament is being brow-beaten to accommodate Professor Kindiki. And remember, at the back of everybody's minds, Kithure Kindiki was the CS Interior when 60 Gen Zs were killed, when we've been witnessing this forced abduction and disappearance of Kenyans. So he's going to serve in that office without the legitimacy and the public support and the energy of the people that you'll expect of a deputy president. And going forward, without that kind of public support and goodwill from the people, you'll also see him facing the same challenges. Because in as much as he's going to become deputy president, the problems that led the young Kenyans to the streets are still there. If anything, they've increased. Shift share is still failing. We have chronic patients who cannot access health services, yet they are fully paid up in NHIF, just because you can't transit. We have university lecturers going on strike. Students cannot pay, cannot access funding for university. You have UHC workers, health workers, who have not been paid their full salary for 6 years. They are on half salary for the last 6 years that they've served. You have JSS that is... So our problems, the cost of living is still high, are still there. And Kithure Kindiki has essentially just moved in to move from being the one who superintended over the police that was killing Gen Zs to now become the deputy president overseeing all this rubric of government. And he will not have the legitimacy and goodwill that you'll expect of somebody holding that particular office. And the final point is this. When all this is happening, ask yourself for Rigathi Gachagua. Probably there's a silver lining in every challenge. Maybe you should consider that maybe I've just been saved. So that in future, we will not be saying that Rigathi Gachagua was part of the pain of a failed regime that was Kenya Kwanza. If anything, they removed him. And he should thank his God that they said, you're not part of us. Probably he may use it in future, or even when he's in retirement, to say, I was not part of them, they even removed me from their failures.
Okay. Do you agree with Steve Ogola that the right thing to do is now for the cases to be withdrawn?
Yeah, no, I don't. I think with the withdrawal of those cases will probably serve Steve Ogola's clients.
Because he was acting for the opposite side. So how do you advise your adversary?
They should have disclosed that that is an advocate from the other side.
How do you advise your adversary?
Selfish proposition, and I think if you look at that, then it illustrates the contradictions that this process has had all through. You know the one thing which I want to disagree with Javas here is that perhaps this impeachment was or can be a very good moment for Rigathi Gachagua. I say this because Rigathi Gachagua was easily impeached because he lacks political support. If, for a moment, Rigathi Gachagua was a member or a party leader of a party that was constituent with the members of parliament, with the MCAs, and was part of the coalition that came together with William Ruto, with UDA and other like-minded parties to form government, chances are that it would not have been easy to impeach. So now he has an opportunity to reinvent himself. He has an opportunity to create political support, to create a political back base, and if he is able to then harness that opportunity, it makes sense for him to pursue the proceedings that are in court to their logical conclusion and hope that he would be able to persuade the court that he was impeached improperly.
Hold that thought for a bit. We'll come back to the issue saying that impeachment can be a good moment because he lacked political support. So we'll come back to that thought in just a short while. Let's cross over to the KICC where Seth Olale is standing by. Seth, good morning. It's good to see you. What's the latest from where you are? And I see there's a lot of activity happening right now.
Well, good morning, Trevor. We're just moments away from the historic swearing-in of Abraham Kithure Kindiki as the country's new deputy president, and already there is quite some activity. We're now just 1.5 hours away from the scheduled commencement of this particular historic event at 10 a.m. We will just try and interact with some of the VVIPs who've arrived here, including governors, members of parliament, and of course CEOs of commissions, members of commissions. But right now, let us just interact with some of the governors. Governor Gachagua County, just let us know, it is quite a historic moment. What does this mean to you, and also the Council of Governors as well?
I think it's an issue for the country. It's not about the Council of Governors or myself, it's for the country. We have gone through quite a process with the impeachment and finally the court pronouncing itself. So I think it's a country position that now the deputy president be sworn, and mine is to wish Professor Kindiki well and pray that our country move forward well in a more peaceful and coordinated manner. Thank you.
And have the constituents of Kajiado accompanied you to this particular event?
Not really. The time was very short, but of course there are many people of Kajiado who live around Nairobi, so I'm sure a few of them are around, and so they stand with the country as the country move forward.
Thank you so much. From Kajiado, we cross all the way to Embu County, where we have Governor Cecily Mbarire, also the chairperson of the UDA party. Governor, it is quite a momentous event for the country. What does it mean, for you? You're doubling up also as the chair of the UDA party.
Well, what has happened there was so totally unexpected for sure, because we never saw this coming. But here we are. We now are about to swear in the next and the new Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, who is Professor Kithure Kindiki. It's obvious a great joy for me coming from Embu County and coming from Mount Kenya East, because this is the first time a top leadership, second in command, has come to that part of the world. But we also know that he's not just the deputy for Mount Kenya East, or Mount Kenya for that matter. He's going to be a deputy president for the Republic of Kenya. What we want is unity in this country. And I have no doubt in my mind that Professor Kithure Kindiki has what it takes to support and assist the president in achieving the better agenda.
Is this a game changer for Mount Kenya East as far as power ascending all the way to that particular region is concerned?
It's a game changer. For the longest, we've always been part of Mount Kenya region, but never have we had the seat, whether it's presidency or deputy presidency, coming to our end. It's the first time it's really coming to us, and we thank God it is here. And we are happy that we can finally say that surely Mount Kenya East has what it takes to produce a national leader. So it is from Mount Kenya East to Kenya and to the world.
And, we also saw a comment by the Secretary General, that is Hassan Omar of the UDA party, saying that they are also preparing as a party, UDA, to install Kithure Kindiki as the deputy party leader as well.
Yes, that is true. The UDA constitution states that the party leader, the president will be the party leader, the deputy president will be the deputy party leader. So we will be holding a National Executive Committee meeting, probably as early as Monday, to bring him in as the new deputy party leader of the UDA party. Yes.
Thank you very much. That is Cecilia Mbarire, the very governor of Embu County, and also the chairperson of the UDA party. From Embu, we cross over to the neighboring Meru County, where we have Governor Kawera Mwangaza, also just part and parcel of the many guests who've arrived here at the KICC. Where I'm standing right now, this is the governor's pavilion, and let us just engage the Meru governor. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
I'm so happy today that we have a new Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. As the larger Meru of Meru, we are so happy and we thank God for it. Yeah.
This is a very special moment from the eastern side of the mountain, or central province, if you want to call it. The deputy president is being installed from that particular region. Is it quite a unique moment for the people of Meru County and, of course, Mount Kenya East?
This is a very unique day, and in fact it is marvelous in our eyes, and we really want to thank our president and also the entire country for supporting our son. Kindiki is our son, and we are very proud of him, and we know that through his leadership, together with our president, that the entire country will be united, especially Meru County. Thank you.
Have you spoken to him even before he comes here, Kithure Kindiki?
Yes, of course, I spoke to him yesterday, congratulated him for the same, and we are proud of him. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kawera Mwangaza, the governor of Meru County. Like I said, let me just set the stage once more. Where I am right now, this is where the governors are sitting. It is called the Governor's Pavilion. Next to them, we have members of parliament, including senators and, of course, MPs representing constituency, women rep, and so on. This is now coming down. The reality dawning on them right now. Right now, we cross over to Nandi County, where we have Governor Sang with me over here. Governor, this was not even expected 1 year ago, but what does it mean for you, Governor?
I think what this means is that the Kenyan Constitution, the resilience of the Kenyan Constitution 2010, and the maturity of Kenyan politics is at play. That what we are seeing is that a deputy president violated certain provisions of the Constitution. A political process was started as envisioned in the Constitution through Parliament, the National Assembly, the Senate. It went to court, and today we are here swearing in a new deputy president, sanctioned and cleared by the court. This is a testament that the Constitution of Kenya 2010 provisions are alive and kicking.
Are you satisfied with that particular ruling by the High Court yesterday, the three-judge bench led by presiding Judge Justice Eric Ogola, and that particular ruling now followed the gazettement and the announcement of this particular event?
The ruling was reasoned, and they gave reasons. We cannot have a country in a situation that in a potential crisis where there is a vacuum in leadership. It cleared this, and we think that what the Constitution, what the courts did, interpreted the Constitution as it is, and therefore we are happy with it. And the provision of the Constitution are still available. They can still be able to go to the full hearing. The ruling will be out, and therefore we are happy with the process.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. So we have guests already seated. We have entertainers who already taken the stage, and what now awaits is the special moment where Kithure Kindiki will be making his way here at this this particular forum. But right now, let me just quickly speak to Eric Gumbo. You are okay. He's
testing 1 2.
Okay. So right now, this is what it looks like here at the VVIP section of KICC, which is set to host Kithure Kindiki as the country's new deputy president. Emmanuel To.
Well, thank you very much, Seth. It has been a beehive of activities, and apart from the governors, we have also members of Parliament, both from the Senate and the National Assembly, seated and waiting for the deputy president designate, Professor Kithure Kindiki, to come in, and they are seated all over this place. It is a restricted area, but we want to see whether we can get to speak to them just for a moment. They are waiting for us to speak to them. They're here. Let me speak to them. Please. Let me speak to them. Mheshimiwa, just your views quickly. Tuko live. No. Don't manhandle us.
Let's go. No problem.
Okay, let me speak to them right here. Okay, just a moment. Mheshimiwa. We are live on Citizen TV.
Thank you very much. We are here today, and I want to appreciate Citizen. I want to appreciate that today we are here on a historic day to see my one-time majority leader in the Senate becoming the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya.
Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa. Let me speak to one quickly. Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa, for Bomet East. Your quick comments about today.
Yeah, this is a very exciting day today because this is something which we had seen. We had been having a lot of challenges. We have working with the former deputy president, and God has done his. God has done good for us because we really fought for it. And Kithure Kindiki is, I think, is the person who is going to be good working with. Is somebody who is so cooperative, and we looking forward to work with the new deputy president.
All right, thank you so much, Mheshimiwa. Member for Bomet East. Quickly, your introduction, your name, and your expectations, Mheshimiwa.
My name is Joseph Dena, nominated member of Parliament, and we want to say that the government has to run. And if the of Parliament, and we want to say that the government has to run. And if the government has to run, we have to have a good system of working. Nashukuru sana mwalimu Kindiki alikuwa mwalimu wangu. Nashukuru sana kwa sababu we are bringing sovereignty into government.
Okay, Mheshimiwa John Paul, you come from Meru County, or rather the region, the Mount Kenya East region. Your expectations today, Mheshimiwa?
Yeah, today I'm a very happy person from Meru County, since the person who we are going to swear in today is a person who is a teamwork person, who normally like working with each and every person, who does not impose to a person, and somebody who embraces a leader. So we are expecting that Kithure Kindiki will be a leader who will embrace all Kenyans, who will work with all Kenyans from every corner of this republic.
Okay, so we have so many members who want to speak, but we'll be getting to speak to them in just a few. They are seated here. This is the members of Parliament area. This should be a Parliament sitting if it were to happen right now, and they are waiting for that event to begin. So that's what we have from here. Over to you back in studio.
All right, thank you so much. You can tell by the tempo, the speed that's happening, things are about to just settle down and get into the real action. The inauguration of Professor Kithure Kindiki as the deputy president is happening in real time. We'll give you wall-to-wall coverage. Seth Olale is standing by there. Emmanuel To is with us. Kamau Mwangi is in Nyeri. Crispin Otieno is in Kisii. Marian Nyambura is in Nakuru. Laura Otieno is in Kisumu. We'll give you wall-to-wall coverage. And plus, we've also seen some guests come in. CS Julius Migos Ogamba, CS for Education, is also there. Remember, they mentioned, by the way, that exams are ongoing as planned. There's no holiday for that. CS Davis Chirchir Roads and Transport is also there. But we were talking about, you're saying that the impeachment can be a good moment, especially for political leaders, to remember that when they get into these political pacts, they should have a political party. And you're saying that if Gachagua was a party leader, this would not have happened.
Yeah, chances are that it wouldn't have happened. And so part of the realignments that you are likely to see happening would be those kind of realignments that, and you must remember that there are those that have also said, and that we warned you that do not go into this kind of a union without a party. And I think even maybe Moses Kuria in his tirades against Gachagua, those are things that they have said. And so there are going to be lessons learned from this, and one of those lessons would be that sometimes when you are in someone's houses, then you have to go by their rules, and so you expect to see that realignment. So it's going to be an interesting time going into the future. The other thing would be that there's been a lot of efficiency that we have seen, and government by its very nature is a very efficient ecosystem, because it has the resources, it has the infrastructure, it has the network to be that efficient.
So the inefficiencies are deliberate?
Yes, in the sense that there is usually nothing lacking for anyone to feel the efficiency of government. And so when government wants to be efficient, then it can be efficient. And what I am expecting to see is that going forward, the public is going to be pushing for the same level of efficiency in the provision of services. We are going to see a situation where the question of enhanced public participation is something that we are going to see. I mean, look at what happened to the citizens' participation on the finance bill, and recently on the very poorly thought out Cheregai bill on amendment of proposals to amend the Constitution. So if you look at how the public has responded to those, I think that the legislators are going to find themselves in a very, very difficult position going forward in terms of the measures that are going to propose on legislation and on policy. The executive is going to find itself in the same place. What I'm not so sure about is the institution of the judiciary, because the judiciary is always often asked, as you interpret the Constitution, look and remember at the history of where we are coming from. The history of where we are coming from is that at a certain point the judiciary lost legitimacy. And it led even to questions of vetting and all that. I'm not so sure whether in the near future we are going to go back to that place where the public has lost support of the judiciary, and so therefore requiring another vetting mechanism. And why do I say this? You have to go back to what happened during the finance bill and the attack that happened at the Supreme Court. Was it just an act of hooliganism, or was it something illustrative of a certain feeling within the country? And that is a question that I think the judiciary leadership needs to ponder. And the individual judges, as they handle these cases, will be faced with. And unfortunately,
do you feel the judiciary has lost legitimacy just because of this case?
No, I am just saying that this process ultimately will test a lot of things and will realign a lot of things politically and realign the society as we know it. That is what I'm foreseeing. And so there'll be a test on the judiciary, and they will acquit themselves or they will convict themselves ultimately in terms of how they handle this issue
to the end.
To the end, because what is happening right now are just interim measures and interim reliefs, and we all know that sometimes they can go one way or the other, and as lawyers sometimes there is precedence, but we also know that certain precedents can be distinguished. Again, we will look at the manner in which they have been distinguished. Does it make a legal, factual, and constitutional sense? So all those things that we are going to consider, but in the near future, there is definitely going to be a realignment in society. On the political front, you can almost foresee that. At the executive, you can almost foresee that. But the judiciary is a critical arm, and it will not be immune to those realignments. And so the question would be whether a time will come when people will feel that they have lost confidence in the judiciary, or people will feel that they still have confidence in the judiciary. And that may ultimately lead to a realignment. It may happen, it may not happen, but definitely the conditions for that are alive at this particular...
Okay, Titus, I'll come to you in just a bit, but there's a lot of activity going on at the KICC. Let's listen in for a bit.
One, two.
Just slightly over an hour to the official kickoff of the program of the inauguration of Professor Kithure Kindiki as the Deputy President, officially happening at the KICC right now. A lot of entertainment ongoing. Ambassadors are there, dignitaries are there, governors are there, legislators are there, and members of the public, a delegation of 10,000 strong at the KICC there. Let's continue with the conversation here in studio. And Titus, is this going to be the ultimate test for the judiciary, like the URI is alleging?
Just as I said before, it is not unique that the High Court has lifted the orders that kept Gachagua in office, and that leaves the entire country with a situation whereby in the event now the cases proceed and all the way to the Supreme Court, there could be a likelihood that the decision of the High Court could be overturned. It has happened before, and I don't think this is very unique in the sense that the very reason why we have courts above the rank of the High Court, the justification possibly is that it is foreseeable that the High Court can make mistakes. And once the High Court makes those mistakes, then the recourse will be that you move to the to higher courts that are ranked higher than the High Court. But most importantly is that the ramifications that will live after this decision, and that comes back to the issue of the swearing in of Kithure Kindiki, because in the event, and I'm saying this based on the fact that one of the judges, Justice Murima, did say that the applicants have established a prima facie case. And we try to interrogate the process that preceded the proceedings in court, is that from the outset, there are fundamental flaws in terms of procedure as to how Gachagua was impeached, all the way to the time the nomination of Kithure Kindiki was pronounced. You will realize that a lot of questions have come around the question of nomination of Kithure Kindiki, because we saw in a record of less than 5 hours the president writing a nomination decree saying that clearance had been obtained from most of the institutions, which we know you as an ordinary Kenyan, when you go there, it can take you probably a month or two before you get that clearance. And most importantly, as it stands today, we do not have an IBC in place. So the question that Kenyans are asking, and this is an issue that will be probably before the court for consideration, is how did Professor Kithure Kindiki get cleared by IBC when we know IBC is not there? So looking at these fundamental questions, there is a possibility that at the tail end of the court process, this swearing in and the nomination and the approval of the good professor could be set aside. Now, if that happens, and today whoever is going to preside the witnessing of the swearing in is part of the judiciary, and I suppose is going to be the Chief Justice or the Deputy Chief Justice in case the Chief Justice is not there. So then that will be a very big indictment on the part of the judiciary, because then it will mean that the judiciary participated in a process that was illegal, null and void, ab initio, right from the onset. And then the consequences that we are left to deal with from the legal standpoint is that will then that be a big indictment on that judicial officer that oversaw the swearing in. Yeah. So will that will be left with questions in the sense that should that judicial officer continue being in office, or should he leave office because he participated in an illegal process? Okay. So it's really a big indictment, and in the fullness of time, then we'll be able to know the extent of the ramifications of the lifting of those conservatory orders. Okay,
let me bring in Dr. Komolo on this. And Dr. Komolo, there are two issues that come up, and Titus has alluded to one of them. Argument that the IBC doesn't exist. Is that a valid concern? And I'm looking at Article 147 of the Constitution, item number 4. It says the Deputy President shall not hold any other state or public office. So as it stands, does Professor Kithure Kindiki, is he still the Interior CS? Is he now not, because there's an acting CS? Has he been fired? Has he resigned? Are we seeing some loopholes in this constitutionality versus the reality on the ground?
Trevor, it is true that we don't have IBC. It is true that IBC is properly constituted when we have the commissioners. But it's also true that we have the Secretariat that normally runs day-to-day operations. And from my understanding, one of the petitions in the entire impeachment process is touching on issues about the processes that went through IBC to clear Professor Kindiki. Some may say they are administrative, some may say IBC cannot function, because remember, they have not been able to conduct by-elections in several wards and constituencies, precisely because there are no commissioners. My problem is that there are laws that have been passed over time that criminalize political activity, that tend to make people who have participated in political processes be disqualified from holding office one way or the other for no apparent reason. From where I stand, there's no real good reason, practical reason, why somebody, for example, should be disqualified from holding a job because he ran for office or is a member of a political party, and vice versa, that a state officer should not be a member of a political party. Because remember, these state officers have a background. A good number of them were elected anyway, and then they left their positions to, like Mr. Wandai, positions to then become state officers, cabinet secretaries. So this is one of those puristic approach to our politics that is unhelpful, that tends to make public office, particularly state office, look like it is some very unique position that people go there impartially, while in reality political power has to be acquired through campaigns, which means you are biased, and at the same time you then have to reward your people once you get power, which means you appoint people who are actively in the political campaigns and processes with you. I think that this lacuna is already cured by the mere fact that we have national values. In the Constitution, we have the expected code of conduct for public and state officers. Once you are in that position, you are expected to be objective, to be impartial, to be patriotic, and things like that. So this argument, I've never bought it, that you expect Professor Kindiki not to be a member of a political party, because we already know anyway his background. I've never really bought it. I think it is one of those many laws that Parliament has passed over the years that serves no purpose, that lives out of a vacuum that does not exist in Kenya and in any other country, and that as part of cleaning up the political system should be repealed to allow people to express their political biases, which is not a bad thing, and also have opportunity to rise through professional roles in a public space. Remember, I told you earlier that I'm really worried that we are having a lot of party-related disputes, and this is purely party-related dispute, coming into our courts, and therefore kind of overshadowing the real work that courts do. Courts do a lot of domestic family disputes. Courts do a lot of commercial disputes, land disputes, that by and large control the economy, by and large control the society. Now, for 1 month, this dispute, which is an intra-order dispute, has come into the fore, and we've spent countless hours when, even now, today, this morning, the ruling party in Gabon has lost elections, parliamentary elections. Botswana has lost parliamentary elections. In the space of about 3-4 years, the UK has replaced prime ministers, changed, the party leadership has changed, and it's not a big national issue because we understand that parties have members, and members have certain ideologies and of course certain processes that you have to follow and replace. What we are interested in, what at least myself I'm interested in, is the policy that this government has and how they plan to implement them and how they can be reformed to work for us. So this debate is totally unnecessary. As I speak to you, they are recruiting commissioners for Public Service Commission. There was an advertisement, I think, last week. One of the disqualifications is that if you ran for any political seat in 2022, then you should not apply. The logical reason, the logical conclusion is why? Why? Because remember, political office should also attract talented, intelligent people.
Yeah.
And so wanting to be an MP or a governor or a president or an MC should not be a disqualifying factor.
Yeah.
So long as once you get there, then it is clear that you have to conform to the code of conduct. So, and I have a couple of friends who are MPs who themselves, once they lose elections, are regretting because they did pass those laws. Two of them have directly regretted to me, because they did pass those laws, and now they are disqualified and jobless.
Yeah. Maybe what Javas has to say about this. Javas, what is the eventual impact politically of this impeachment? What is the consequence?
Well,
will it unite the country? Will it divide it? And I had Senior Counsellor Aminwa try to bring it up and say that the impact of what is being said here in court could lead to some strife politically.
That is his pleasant imagination. The political ruins of the mortal from Madeira are going to be, first of all, of great impact to him personally. He's the greatest casualty, and he'll suffer the weight of that load, I think, as long as he lives on this good earth. But there are certain perspectives that have been playing out. One from Rigathi Gachagua himself a few days ago, and then even from his counsel. From Rigathi Gachagua himself, recall that he was even intimating and speaking to his Mount Kenya base, asking them to be quiet and remain cool and non-violent, as though there has been any inkling or even thought of violence anywhere in the country since this the commencement of this impeachment process.
You don't think there's been any?
There has not been any. In fact, there's not been any violence. The ground has not been boiling. But secondly, I think imaginatively, Rigathi Gachagua has been thinking himself like a Raila Odinga of sorts. If this was the circumstance of Raila Odinga, things would have been very different. The country would not have been calm as it is. Raila Odinga, Rigathi Gachagua is not Raila Odinga. Not in this life, not even in the next. And that is why no one has lifted a finger anywhere. Right now, a spot check that you've carried out across the country is calm. People in Madeira are not even coming out of their own houses. They're in their own compounds. It is calm. If it was Raila Odinga, for example, for purposes of comparison, things that would have happened just within the city, the entire Nyanza, Western, I mean, you would have thought that perhaps the day of the Armageddon has arrived. But that's not the situation right now. When Counsel for Rigathi said that it is going to make the political situation in the country very volatile, I think he was also imagining too much, because I can assure you, of course, what is going to happen as a consequence of this impeachment, all of it taking provenance from the broad-based government between President William Ruto and Honorable Raila Odinga and ODM, is that the political plate tectonics are going to continue shifting even further. The issue of AUC they're going to play out, and the aftermath of the AUC, hoping that Raila gets it. Personally, I imagine that there is the potential or the potency of having a pre-election kind of coalition that will be imagined before the 2027 election. And it's going to have persons trying to get or to be onboarded into that coalition. The issue of Rigathi Gachagua, how useful is he going to be, first to himself, second to Mount Kenya, third to people like Kalonzo Musyoka? You see, Kalonzo Musyoka, the other day attended a political event somewhere in Kiambu, which he never organized. He just went there, that had been organized by Maina Njenga, the former leader of the outlawed Mungiki sect. And some people are imagining that he's somebody who should actually be part of our team to occupy public office. Really, I think we think so lowly of Chapter 6 of the Constitution, when such kind of persons could even start being imagined to occupy public office, or even Kalonzo Musyoka, imagining that the heavens had ordained him to be president at some point, and that it will come through the way of Mainda Njenga and such kind of persons. I think will not be making sense of even the values of our Constitution. If people are complaining about issues to do with the values, or rather the character of Rigathi Gachagua that led to his impeachment, we must also therefore frown upon individuals who have got such kind of a checkered past. In fact, I'm using the word checkered in a very liberal and restrained manner, so that I do not use other words that may designate some individuals to the backwaters of intellectual apathy. The other thing is that it is important for us to realize that our politics keeps on shifting after election. And looking at how things have played out, Trevor, up to now, you can easily imagine and predict that political events will be so much charged by the time we get to 2027. The effect of Professor Kithure Kindiki being deputy president is going to have an effect not just in Mount Kenya East, but beyond Mount Kenya East. President William Ruto is not going to sit there and watch Mount Kenya West be hived off the entire Mount Kenya political map and taken to somebody else for whatever reason. He's going to fight for it. I know as a matter of fact that Mount Kenya, especially Kikuyu Mount Kenya, has now shrunk. In fact, it has moved off and taken away its support from President William Ruto. But he's not going to sit and watch that happen. So much is going to happen between now and the 2027 elections. Who is going to be the next CS for Interior? Is it going to be somebody from the mountain? If, for example, from the mountain, what is going to be the consequence and the effect of that person trying to make sure that there are votes from Mount Kenya? The other thing, do we want to imagine that Mount Kenya will want, because of Gachagua's fate, to be out of government from now 2027 and even beyond? And because nobody, and even some leaders who are ambitious, don't want to be out of government, they'll want to rethink their political positions. And so, yes, the Gachagua impeachment is going to be seriously consequential, with positives and some negatives as well.
And Willis, what is the consequence of this? Because Deuri already alluded to it, especially when it comes even to the pre-election deals. Because Gachagua himself was the first one to confess and say everybody else had a deal, it was signed, I did not sign anything. Deuri is alleging that if he was a party leader, this would not have happened. What is the consequence of his impeachment in the political setting?
You know, the first thing that we must all appreciate is that there will be consequences. And everybody must be ready to live with the consequences. So Gachagua is going to live with these consequences. Ruto also must be ready to live with these consequences. And he must accept what fate will have presented to him. I'm not an expert in Mount Kenya politics, but at least from my engagement with people from that region, I will say this. There's a trending song, a Mau Mau song by the late Kamaru that popularized it. And that song speaks to the heart of the people of the mountain. And it seems to be speaking a question of, largely also the question of betrayal. And regarding Gachagua, for all his ills, for all his sins, he seems to be now a victim of betrayal. Because if you look at Rigathi Gachagua, I don't like his politics, but I sympathize with him because when he was talking about Morima, the things he was talking about shareholders, it was to the benefit of William Ruto. This is a man who gave out his life to campaign for William Ruto. Went flat out to attack everybody, Raila Odinga, Uhuru Kenyatta, Mama Ngina, everybody that he could think of, to benefit William Ruto. And the payment he gets in return is to be kicked in the teeth. And I know Mulima people, I know Mount Kenya people, they don't forgive betrayal. And this, to them, will be betrayal, not that they love Rigathi Gachagua, but that in principle, any person who betrays his close associates will potentially betray even us who are not close to him. So William Ruto must get ready to live with those consequences. That will not be good. Remember also, 57% of his votes in the last elections came from the mountain. And I also don't buy the fallacy that there can be Mount Kenya East and Mount Kenya West. When it comes to voting, that region votes as one. But as I conclude on this part, I say this. One thing that we seem to be forgetting, that on the 25th of June, Kenyans crossed the Rubicon. Our politics moved away from the tribal alignments and tribal alignments as we knew it before. Kenyans in unison came out and defined their problem to be the economy. As James Carville in the US used to say, it's the economy, stupid. And when they went out, they were tribeless. They were partyless. They were simply saying, we want a political system that responds to our economic needs. So if William Ruto thinks that he's going to organize the next round of politics around tribe, I'm sorry. The constituency you're talking to is no longer looking at tribe as the organizing factor. It is looking at an issue and has defined for you the question of the next election. The question of the next election is the economy. Which campaign, which candidate is giving us a believable, tangible solution to our economic challenges today? That is where people will gravitate. And that is why even Raila joining William Ruto in the broad-based government has not given his administration any political life. They are still struggling. They still had to sacrifice Gachagua, politically, so to speak. And they're not getting the legitimacy because they are not responding to the question of the election that the Kenyan people have posed. That is the economy. And Mount Kenya feels the economic pain just like the Mtaita or the Mdigo. They are all asking, what is your solution to the economic problem that we are facing? So if we try to say that, oh, it's just Mount Kenya alone, that's why you see, you look at the entire region, they don't care about Kindiki. They're not going to the street to celebrate that Kindiki is now a deputy. They don't care about him because he is not responding to their problem. The problem they've posed is the economy.
Is that really so, Willis? Because even then, if the issue of ethnic diversity and mobilization was not important in the political scene, the deputy president did not have to come from the Mount Kenya region.
That's what I'm telling you.
That move was deliberate.
That's what I'm
telling you. The other issue that Javas was raising is then the question comes in, who's the next CS for Interior? Have we really moved on?
In fact,
that a fallacy
that is what I'm saying. The political class, has not moved on.
But have the people moved?
The people have moved on, and I'm saying so in this way. Why I'm saying so is,
isn't it just a small minority?
If you look at the numbers,
the perception that
if you look at the
but
numbers,
still the same people.
Let me explain. If you look at the numbers at the Gen Z demonstrations, those numbers no politician ever mobilized in the history of this nation. And those numbers were not mobilizing based on tribe. They were mobilizing based on an issue. If you see like what is going on right now on TV, Kithure Kindiki being sworn in, and there's almost pin drop silence. I've just seen like 10 villagers somewhere in Tharaka coming out to dance to celebrate. If this was the old political tribal alignments and mobilization, the whole of Tharaka and Meru and Mount Kenya will be in a heat wave. People celebrating. Look even outside KCC, don't even go far. At the very epicenter of the swearing in. Look outside. You are seeing super metros and batatos dropping people. If this was a people-driven process, people are feeling it, they are feeling mobilized politically, using the tribe, the entire Thika Road will be full of people walking to KCC. They will not even have done this swearing in at KCC. They will have chosen a bigger venue like Kasarani Stadium or Uhuru Gardens. But we are beyond the tribal politics. I may not have the facts today, statistics to prove it, because we had an election since the Gen Z revolution. But I do believe that the psyche of the voter has now moved away from the traditional mode of mobilization, that when my tribesman is sitting on the table, I am equally full. No. Kenyans are saying, you may be my tribesman, but if you are mismanaging the economy, I'm going to suffer. And I'm suffering, even if I'm a Kalenjin, even if I'm a Kikuyu, even if I'm a Luo, my suffering does not know my tribe. There is no special shop for Kikuyus. There are no special shops for Kalenjins. There are no special shops for Luos. Everybody shops in the same shop. And the economic pain we are facing, the failed shift shaft we are facing, it is faced in Nyeri General Hospital, it's also faced in Sias County Hospital. It is also faced in Coast General Hospital. So Kenyans have understood and they're explaining their problem. They're defining the question of the election. Hence, the low energy that you are witnessing today at KCC. There are no people, there are more leaders that you can witness than there are citizens.
Yeah.
When ordinarily, in political rallies, you find there are more citizens than there are leaders. Today I'm seeing more of people are wearing very beautiful suits, put to ladies with nice, beautiful makeup and beautiful wigs. I'm not seeing Mama Mbogas here. The Huda campaign was a people-driven campaign. Where are they? Because they've now moved away from the political class. The politicians are still living in dreamland.
Okay.
The people have left them.
But you see, maybe some Mama Mbogas have, some things have, economy has improved for them. They have bought some suits.
But is what Willis is saying, is it really true that, or is it the loud minority online who give the perception that we have moved away from the ethnic mobilization, whereas the silent majority still have the our man syndrome?
I mean, the jury is still out on that question. But if you look at the country and you look at what has happened so far, you would be forgiven to have hope, like Willis is exhibiting here, that there appears to be a shift in the manner in which we are doing things.
You don't share the same hope?
I do in a sense, because I've seen what has happened, and I don't mean to say this in a bad way, but there's been several events that have been organized by politicians where the crowd has been mobilized in a particular way, and when the crowd has appeared in those forums, it has acted contrary to the mobilization. So that seems to tell you that there could be something different happening. And because we are molded in a particular way to believe that things will happen in a particular manner, that could be the reality. Ultimately, I still think that the ethnic mobilization in terms of our politics is something that we will not overcome with a stroke of pen or by a stroke of an event, as has happened with the Gen Z revolution. I've always felt that what happened in this country during the finance bill may not have been properly understood, because all of us chose to call it a Gen Z revolution. But I have asked myself, was it a question of dissatisfaction in society that has been expressed by other generations that was just picked by the Gen Z, and that it had support in a broad-based way more than just a particular generation? And that is something that the outcome will become evident once we get into a proper political season where parties are now, the elections are about, we know who the candidates are, and we see the mobilization. But the reality of it is that there is a higher sense of patriotism, a higher sense of demand for services than has been witnessed before in this country. And so, for me, what I would want to see is how, as a country, we deal with these challenges, especially the realignments and the consequences that are going to arise from this decision to send Rigathi Gachagua home. Trevor, I think that you will find very few people who support the impeached president because of his character, because of his comments. A lot of people do not support him because of that. But a lot of people also are looking at what has happened and are feeling that perhaps the right thing may not have been done. And so there are all these sentiments that are going on. And ultimately, there is a lesson in this. And the lesson is that if you go into a political arrangement without the backing of your own political party, then you are, so quote-unquote, a lame duck. I mean, political parties in these countries have their owners, and so that you need to be the owner of a political party. And that is why I think that Javas was probably wrong in the assessment of what he was making. Because when you talk of someone like Raila Odinga, you're talking of someone who is has a political party, has members of parliament, and has MCAs and has a base. And so it becomes very difficult to deal with him politically, because you have to look at those numbers and ask yourself, can you be able to push for something and go through without those numbers?
But would you say the same for Professor Kithure Kindiki then? Or is he also in the same area? For him, now it's a loyalty that will help. Because even he's coming in as an individual. He's not a political party leader. He doesn't have any political backing, though he was a senator, but still.
Yeah, and true, you will, in fact, if you listen to the commentary that has been being mentioned, that fact is being acknowledged, and people would want to see what kind of personality and what kind of profile will he assume once he gets into office. Of course, he appears to enjoy the political goodwill of his colleagues from his governing party. But it would be something that we would want to see. And so, in a sense, what has happened is like a change in a system where we have a parliamentary leadership that and you can see even UDA as a party has begun the process of removing or have indicated their intention of beginning the process of removing Rigathi Gachagua as their deputy party leader. So that tells you that within the UDA party, the deputy president is an unwanted person.
Persona non grata.
Yes, and has to be removed.
Yeah.
And in essence, what has happened to the deputy president is a vote of no confidence by his own political party that has found support across the other political parties, as perhaps as a result of the realignment, the present broad-based government. But that said and done, I think that as a country, we need to pick the lessons that we have learned in terms of leadership. I think that the deputy president, in his conduct and in his remarks, assumed a profile that does not fit his office, and so we hope that we can see a change in what Kindiki will bring in. That will be the first thing, so that we begin talking of this country, even though we understand that there are other issues, but we begin to talk of this country as a unit, as opposed to looking at a particular region.
Okay.
But going into the future, what I think is going to be important will be how the government approaches the challenges of the common man going into the future, in view of the fact that now, if the bad guy is now out, are we expecting to see a change in services? Because the bad guy is out, the good guy is in, and so we will be looking at it to try and see, will it translate into services for Mwananchi? And I think ultimately, that is going to be the test that is going to determine whether this choice is going to enjoy legitimacy to the end, or it's going to be a Waterloo moment for this administration.
Okay. Let's listen to what's going on at the KICC right now. A lot of entertainment going on there. Let's listen to the natural sound from that area for a bit before I come to you, Titus.
Let me get to the game.
Asanteni sana Presidential Escort Band. Napoendelea sasa na wimbo wetu wa pili.
All right, in just over half an hour now, just about 30 minutes to go for the official program to begin. And Titus, we're talking about this issue of our man syndrome and the betrayal and the consequence of this entire impeachment politically in terms of the rearrangement of it all. What do you foresee?
Now, obviously, out of this legal process, you know, the whole process started as a political process, then midway it ended up being a legal process. And now that Gachagua is technically out of the picture, we now get into a phase where we are dealing with another political issue. And that's when we now get into the stage of political realignments. Obviously, if you look at the process that preceded the removal of Gachagua, there are a lot of dealings that were done before his removal. And I speak with so much authority in the sense that I was watching the proceedings at the Senate, and I could see the footprints of ODM all over the whole impeachment process. I remember 2 senior counsels were sent specifically to cross-examine Gachagua before he admitted himself in a hospital. So obviously, out of that entanglement, there must have been some quid pro quo for the parties to participate in the ouster of Gachagua, especially coming from the ODM side. And from the political circles, we have heard now that they have lined up some names for the replacement, for the replacement of the CS Interior. I heard the MP of Nyaribari Masaba saying that as ODM they have proposed Junet Mohammed to take over the seat of the Interior Cabinet Secretary.
This is just pure speculation.
No, I saw it. I saw it on TV. I saw him say it. And the MP sits in ODM and in their ranks. He said it, so I don't know, unless changed. But basically, there are going to be expectations because after we have removed someone that you wanted, definitely you will have to give us the consideration. So out of this, I see political realignments in the sense that ODM, having participated in the removal of Gachagua, are going to demand that their end of bargain be honored. And the other part, the significant part of Mount Kenya that feels isolated, definitely are going to rethink about their partnership with this government. And as we move towards 2027, a lot of political realignments are going to come up. As to whether we are going to have casualties from the side of the president, only time can tell. But I can tell you from what we've heard is that a significant portion of the Mount Kenya voting bloc feels disenfranchised by the removal of Gachagua. So as to whether Kindiki and being brought in as the deputy president will be able to now salvage the situation, it's a matter of time for us to wait and see. But obviously, the notion of our person has been removed or our person has been put in office still is there, much as it has not revealed itself or manifested itself in this situation, because if we look at the 2 politicians who have been at the center of this all political fiasco, Kithure Kindiki and DP Gachagua, former DP Gachagua, these are individuals that I can say, someone said a few years ago that these are test tube politicians. Test tube politicians in the sense that they have not solidified their constituent. Like today, if something happens and Kithure Kindiki is removed from the seat of the deputy president, I will not expect any protests, because these are politicians that have been brought through the hands and arms of certain giant politicians. That is William Ruto. And we know from the history, Kithure Kindiki has been on the side of the president for quite a long time. In fact, it's been revealed that when the president was choosing his running mate for the first time, he had a lot of people wanted him, but because of certain reasons which have not been so clear, Gachagua ended up being the running mate.
Okay. In all that thought for a moment, in case you're wondering what you're seeing on your screen right now, that is the motorcade of the deputy president nominee now, or designate, Professor Kithure Kindiki. I think that's the southern bypass. They're making their way to the KICC. As soon as they get there, then the program will begin officially. We're still waiting for the president himself to also arrive. The program begins officially at 10 a.m. It's a judicial program, and you can see the speed that they're moving with. I think that's the Southern Bypass. Now the motorcade is head straight to the KICC, and that is the motorcade of the Professor Kithure Kindiki. Any moment from now, he'll officially be the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya as soon as he's sworn in. All right, we'll keep an eye. We told you we're having wall-to-wall coverage. We'll tell you all the moments that come in, including the breakneck speed that you can see with the motorcade there already. But this, what do you make of this? Does that already show some level of increased security even way before the official swearing in?
I may not really know, because I don't know the number of cars that he used to use as CS interior.
You can be sure it was not this big.
But from the look of the cars that I can see, they appear to be new. They appear to be the latest versions of the cars. So clearly there is an increase of the security, because the cars look as if they're the latest models.
Yeah. And additionally, Trevor, even as his designate deputy president, he's now, with the, from the perspective of the state, property of the state. So therefore also he has to be protected, taken care of, transported in a manner befitting the office that is just moments away from assuming.
Okay. And Titus, you're finishing your thoughts in terms of the political realignment and the politics of betrayal.
Yeah, so definitely there are going to be political realignments, and we are going to witness a lot of demands, particularly from the side of ODM, because without doubt, ODM has had a very critical role in the impeachment of Gachagua.
But do these realignments, as you continue the thoughts process, are they for the sake of the people or the sake of the leaders?
Definitely not. They're definitely not for the sake of the people, because just to recapture the aspect, the point that Dr. Komolo here had alluded to, that right now the question of clearance of Kithure Kindiki by IBC can be done by the Secretariat, can be done without necessarily the commissioners being in office. But the same IBC through the Secretariat, when the Gen Zs went there trying to initiate the process of recalling MPs, he told them, we don't have IBC commissioner, so we cannot initiate that process. So in its own admission, they have admitted that they cannot undertake these fundamental legal processes. But when it comes to clearance of an individual to the convenience of the government, that is done very quickly in a record of time. But coming back to the issue of political realignments, definitely these whole things that we are witnessing are not done for the sake of the people. Because if they were done for the sake of people, we have very fundamental issues that are pending before Parliament and the Senate that need to be processed in a record of time. But we've not seen so. So out of convenience, if an issue that touches on the political class, definitely it will be processed in a record of time. But when issues that touch on issues on Kenyans at large, we can see these matters taking sweet time to process them. And here and there, we have seen many a times we don't have quorum in Parliament.
Yeah, in fact, the
so
Speaker was
these issues are done conveniently. Where it suits the political class, it's processed very fast. Where it is meant to serve the people, it's not. Particularly if it dents or puts them in an awkward situation. A good example is putting in place an IBC. The political class has deliberately frustrated that position because they know as soon as we have a working IBC, the next stage will be the people of Kenya recalling them. Because remember the anger that we witnessed in June 25th during the Gen Z protest is still there, and it has not gone. And you can see now, I'm just reading the Daily today, I can see there is it's called Explain of the Proposed Tax Law Amendment Bill of 2024. It is, in a way, it is reintroducing the issues that were rejected in the finance bill that led to the protest. But I can see in a very clever manner. So these are things that we are going to witness that pile up again, and it won't be long when we see other serious protests. As I conclude on the issue of realignments, definitely political the political class having participated in the ouster of DP Gachagua, we expect that people are going to demand things here and there. And in the event that the Kenya Kwanza or the government side is not going to honor those deals that they entered into, then we are staring at further political realignment. Probably even now Gachagua coming in as a partner, and this time round I am sure he is going to ensure that he signs a shareholding agreement, because if he had a shareholding agreement, believe me you, Trevor, it will be very difficult for him to be ousted as he has been processed through. So I will not be surprised if by the mere fact that Gachagua's case continue to lie in court, I'll not be surprised that this guy will start campaigning very actively, because as it stands today, he's not barred from participating in political issues or holding public office until the impeachment case is done and dusted.
Okay. Let me hear what Kumola has to say in terms of going forward. What should Professor Kithure Kindiki now think about, and also the government as well? Because, like Willis had said, the realignments has been done, and also the Uri also alluded to it. The realignments have been done. So now the people are wondering, so what's in it for us? And I think that's either Langata Road, and they're actually just coming in. Yes, that's a Montokedo, now the designate Deputy President, Professor Kithure Kindiki, making its way through to KICC. That's the Langata Road area. They're just coming in. They should be in town maybe in the next 6 minutes or so. But what now should the focus be on?
Trevor, what we are seeing there shows you that power is sweet, but it's also transient. A month ago, the same people were clearing for Gachagua. So
now they're clearing for someone else.
Yes, and there will be another DP, one way or the other, in a couple of years.
Yeah.
So, and of course, my classmate here, Willis, is also the deputy party leader for Safina, and God willing, his dreams will come true since they have a leader. Look, I think that elections in 2027 will most likely be won based on economic policies and social policies that this government
and not ethnic mobilization.
Most likely not. I am not ruling out ethnic-based voting, but the fact is the demographics are changing so fast, and the group that I teach, the group that I interact with, are not so ethnicized as is my generation and the generation ahead of us. So I think that Professor Kindiki, who is a brilliant guy, and the president and their team should now refocus, let their legal team fight the petitions to improve the economic well-being of the average person, the mamambogas we keep talking about, to implement social justice reforms, to improve security of the country without being perceived to be violating human rights, because that also has a constituency. And even the papers today are indicating that our international partners are not very happy with the perceived abductions, state-led abductions that are taking place. Of course, disappearances of activists and all that. So I think that they should really do a lot of reform based on their agenda. You know, both of these coalitions had very good on paper policies. Talking about economic improvement, lowering cost of living, focusing on the hustlers, and obviously healthcare reforms. I am one of those, and this is the first time I'm talking about this, I'm one of those who support healthcare reforms. I think, since I've lived in countries where there's universal healthcare, I think properly designed and implemented universal healthcare is a good thing. It will, for those of us who are fairly known and who get requests to contribute to health issues, to contribute to education issues and all this, I think it will also help us reduce this black tax, this burden that we have from the village every now and then, if there is genuine universal health care. Because the money that I use, for example, per month, helping treat people, majority of whom I don't know, contributing to funerals and all this is too much. And it's not sustainable. Yeah. So healthcare reforms, I think, is a good thing. I've also been in jurisdictions that have universal free education, free public education, where your status does not matter. And also means tested, where those who are rich pay more. And I know it works. So I am also one of those who is supporting reforms in education sector, particularly in higher education, in technical education, that is obviously designed to secure the jobs of the future. The bigger question is that everyone seems to be concerned that the implementation of these reforms is not really well explained, is perhaps overburdensome, or perhaps hurried, or not gone through, perhaps overburdensome, or perhaps hurried, or not gone through what you will call a testing period. So Professor Kindiki, being the scholar he is, well-traveled as he is, should be able to advise the government, lead the team that will implement these reforms in a manner that responds to concerns of the ordinary members of the public. If they don't do that, and yesterday's Daily had a lot of stories about chronic illness patients who probably are not being served at the moment by the reforms or have not been integrated, then of course you can expect a lot of dissatisfaction, you can expect a lot of rebellion, and then obviously then the changes in the political landscape will not count come 2027. Having said that, I have consistently agitated for structured coalitions in this country. And I'm happy that after every election, after all this infighting, whatever, the country seems to embrace some form of coalitions, however informal. So I hope that they also take opportunity of this, the political lull, to come up with a clear framework for parties to enter into pre or post-election coalitions, not based on positions, but based on harmonization of agenda, which is achievable within 5 years. You know, you can't do everything within 5 years. So you better focus on 2-3 things that must be achieved. And if those come through a coalition agreement that gives the ruling party and the minority party, whatever formation, some legroom to work together for the betterment of Kenyans, I think that will be good. All said and
I believe this is the Deputy President designate, Professor Kithure Kindiki, is at the office of the Harambee House, where he's still, or that's him seeing of his staff before he officially goes on to KICC, and he's just been received. I believe those are some of the last moments of pictures, was him as a CS for Interior. The PS of Molo is already there for PS for Interior. That's, and also several of them there. So that's like a final picture that they take as the initial team before he heads into KICC. When he comes out from KICC, he will now be the Deputy President right after this from 10 a.m. I believe those are the final pictures with the people who worked with him in the Ministry of Interior as he walks out to head into his new role, literally walking into his new role as the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. Yes, you're finishing your thoughts on this.
So one of the biggest concerns I've had in this country is also failure to bring on board serious professionals, experienced professionals who may be having different opinion but still want to serve the country. So, and one of the accusations against Mr. Gachagua is that he was kind of alienating other people. And I speak as somebody who has been perceived one way or the other, sometimes not to be there or something along those lines, who has experienced discrimination in brief in this country. So I hope that this government lives to its promise to genuinely integrate. If there are opportunities, please share, but share with real professionals who want to work. If you want to bring the deputy party leader of Safina, because I know Willis is a professional. For example,
I don't want to be anywhere near. I don't want to be anywhere near Kenya Kwanza administration.
I think Dr. Komolo is using Willis
to lobby for his because very clear. I don't want to be I can never be anywhere near Kenya Kwanza administration. The only time we'll ever come into contact with each other is when they're exiting and we are coming in. But not to work together.
The Professor Kithure Kindiki has decided to walk. Professor Kithure Kindiki has decided to walk from his former office now straight to KICC, and the entire team is with him there. It's not too far, it's a close walking distance, but now he's decided to walk in there, where the inauguration now begins officially. But Javas, you're looking forward now as he walks into his new role. Where should his focus be?
I think, Trevor, there are some perspectives that I have. In fact, first of all, is the comparison between the outgoing or former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua and the incoming Deputy President, Professor Kithure Kindiki. When you look at the fiber of these two men, there is a great variance intellectually, there is a great variance in terms of demeanor, there is a great variance in terms of worldview, and I think given that he's the second professor going to occupy such high office, second to the president, the other professor being the late Professor George Saitoti, there is great expectation on the part of Professor Kindiki. He's just from holding a very critical docket in this government, CS Interior. And he's a CS who's not traveled out of the country for the duration that he has been, or for the subsistence of his period as a CS Interior. Secondly, we have not heard of a single scandal about this gentleman who is a former law professor at Moi University, the alma mater of many of us here. In fact, I think nearly all of us here. The other thing is that Professor Kindiki is an affable man, a man of great talent, lucid intellect, and I think I can say he's got an attractive demeanor. And because of that, people do anticipate that he'll have some calmness that he brings with him to that high office as Deputy President.
But Javas, when you're talking about his past, please don't forget about the 60 Gen Zs who were killed. Don't forget about the forced disappearances that are happening, the abductions that are happening. I mean, the fact that he's become Deputy President, he's not an angel, man. This man has skunk in his closet. Let's discuss him with totality.
Exactly.
Because those who've died, we are not going to start saying that we have a saint here. We don't have a saint becoming Deputy President. And Javas, I have a problem when we get to these spaces and we start painting a very rosy picture of somebody who is coming to big office. No, you must discuss him for what he truly is. And part of what he truly is, this man was the CS when over 60 Kenyans were killed by the police. As I speak now today on TV, we don't know where Aoko is. There are abductions and forced disappearance of Kenyans. And this man is the one who is in charge of Interior. And he's never given a single statement to explain these deaths and the forced disappearances. So I just want you, Javas, to be very factual. Talk about his glowing tributes, what he's done. He was my teacher. I'm proud of him. But I will not say, because he was my teacher, that now he's become an angel. When I can't see the 60 Kenyans who are killed, I'm not getting an explanation on the Gen Zs who are being abducted.
In fact, my kindred Willis, I agree with you. I agree with your sentiment. I associate with it. In fact, I understand the perspective from which you're looking at this. And I like being factual. The same way I was factual that, for example, Gachagua, having committed political sins and been indicted by the Senate, even if 20 angels were to swear in his support, it would not change that hard fact. With Professor Kindiki, we agree that he has presided over a Ministry of Interior, and there have been some challenges within that ministry. In fact, even the IG, the Inspector General of Police, is somebody also who should actually, in terms of command responsibility, explain to Kenyans fully where the enforced disappearances persons on record are, including Aoko, where people who've been killed extrajudicially, and what kind of attention and recourse the state should offer them and their families. In fact, Willis, I agree with you to this extent that issues to do with enforced disappearances, extrajudicial executions, should not be part of our country in this time of our lives, and even under this constitution. I fully agree, and all of us share that perspective. I fully agree that while Professor Kindiki has moved to the office of the Deputy President, the file has not closed with regard to the issues of the Gen Zs. And government does not close. The constitution is alive, and I think it's very important that now, of course, Musalia Mudavadi, our Prime CS, is acting Interior CS. But we need to expect, to hope that we are going to have active investigations by the DCI, by the police themselves, by IPOA. We have got the legitimate expectation that this government is going to respond to those families. I agree with you.
That is correct. And all I want you to say is when you define Kindiki's history, please also include he's coming out of a ministry where he superintended over the killings of 60 Kenyans Gen Zs forced disappearances, and abduction.
Correct. Okay. But now, just this.
That was his ministry.
Hold on 1 second. Just to give perspective, that's Professor Kithure Kindiki speaking to the security apparatus of this country. Those are people he worked really closely with, and it's actually part of the conversation we're having right now.
It's not for sure.
There, so the DCI boss earlier on there, so the National Police Service Inspector General, all the arms of government being there represented at the holding room before the inauguration kicks off officially in the next few moments. And Willis, you're on the floor now. So in his entry, where should his focus be?
I mean, the first thing that this administration should be focusing on even today, I don't even think why they're doing this ceremony. It should have been a private ceremony done in State House, 10 people, they finish, and get back to work. And the first thing should have been shift share. These dialysis patients, these cancer patients, these are people who are not able to get, who are on chronic illnesses, who are not able to get healthcare system, yet they have paid. How do we make sure that they get a functioning healthcare system? Number two, I'll look at this university funding model. Our students are out of, actually, many of them are not able to afford to pay their university education. That is something that I would want to see, that our people are able, we come up with a funding model that can ensure that a majority of students who qualify and deserve get funding. I'll look at UHC workers. I'll look at JSS teachers. So there's so much happening here. The cost of living, joblessness. The state of joblessness in this country today, it's shocking. You saw over 10,000 Kenyans queuing to go to Qatar for only 3,000 jobs, and they're not even told which job they're going to do. They're just told to turn up in Qatar at KICC for an interview. The same location where they are today. Last week, there were over 10,000 Kenyans queuing there looking for jobs. Today, all these people are going there to see one person getting a job. So what I'm saying, there's so much that is happening in this country that the primary focus should not be this kind of a ceremony. It should be on paying attention to the people's needs and the people's interest. How do we get this economy back to functioning? How do we deal with the odious debt that Kenya Kwanza keeps to be taking every day? These are the things that, to me, concern. If you are having this ceremony to discuss who has taken illegal debts in this country, and you have live coverage of TV showing us how our money is being misused, that will be a very good day for Kenya. If you're having this kind of ceremony, that not one person is getting a job, but you have 10,000 Kenyans who are being employed. We can have this kind of ceremony, and we are seeing that shift share is now working, the chronic patients are being treated, and the healthcare system is working. That will be something good. But as it is today, it's politicians who are celebrating one of their own, not the people of Kenya.
Okay. They will be closing remarks because we need to cross over. They has just arrived now officially. That we're about to find out who that is, but we know the Deputy President designate Professor Kithure Kindiki has already arrived at the venue now. Yes, they will be closing remarks before we cross over for the official function.
Well, I think Kindiki has his work cut out in terms of being the principal assistant to the president. There is obviously a lot of scrutiny now on the office of the presidency in terms of the challenges that the country is facing. And you know, the reality of it is that if they succeed, we succeed as a country. And so it is imperative that we wish them well as they get into office and hope that they can be able to serve the country.
Okay.
The other thing is that the things that have happened, especially the things that have happened in court, have pointed us to just how close we can get to a constitutional crisis. And I think you have seen how the court has tried to manage the situation that was before it, looking at that possible crisis and trying to see, to craft a solution for it. I think it is important that we go back. Kindiki today is being sworn in to bear true allegiance to the Constitution of Kenya.
All right.
We want to see him undertaking that. And we hope that all the other organs will now redirect themselves to actually offering service and being true guardians of the Constitution.
All right, let's cross over now to the KICC where all the action is, and any moment from now the swearing in will officially commence at the KICC. Listen in.
tusonge mbele.